In the cold, vast silence between galaxies, a single vessel breached the unknowable not by size or firepower, but by daring. When the Dominion reached too far, they awakened a world that built not bigger ships, but smarter ones. And the galaxy would never be the same. The vastness of space stretched before the Valiant, our homeworld's first true interstellar vessel. Commander Cale Riven stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of countless stars through the viewing port. After 47 standard hours of travel using the newly developed quantum phase core, they had ventured farther than any human in history. Status report, Denar Riven said to his navigation officer. Alex Denar looked up from her console, her brow furrowed. Commander, something's not right. According to our star charts, we should be in empty space, but sensors are picking up significant traffic ahead. Artificial structures, 2 massive ones. Riven moved to her station, studying the readings with growing concern. This wasn't supposed to be here. Their mission was simple: test the quantum phase core by reaching Proxima Centauri and return home. Instead, they'd apparently jumped much farther than intended. Full stop power down non-essential systems, he ordered. Let's not announce ourselves until we know what we're dealing with. The Valiant slowed to a halt, hanging silently among the stars as the crew tried to make sense of their situation. The ship was impressive by our homeworld standards, 300 meters of advanced technology and innovative design. But Riven suddenly felt very small. Across the sector in the gleaming command center of the Dominion dreadnought, inevitable victory, Admiral Varnak received a report from one of his underlings. The tall, blue-skinned officer barely glanced at the junior lieutenant who approached. Admiral, our outer sensors detected an anomalous energy signature in Sector 7. It appears to be a small vessel of unknown configuration. Varnak waved a 4-fingered hand dismissively, probably another smuggler or trader trying to avoid tariffs. Send a patrol to investigate, but don't bother me with such trivial matters again. Yes, Admiral, the lieutenant said with a bow before retreating. Varnak returned his attention to the quantum light field map, displaying the vast Zarkai Dominion. For over 9 millennia, the Dominion had ruled the known galaxy with absolute authority. Thousands of species and millions of worlds bowed to Dominion rule. The addition of yet another insignificant trading vessel was hardly worthy of his attention. Back on the Valiant, the crew worked frantically to understand their predicament. Captain, I'm picking up communications traffic. Lots of it, reported Communication Officer Elias Trent. The neural mainframe can't translate most of it, but there are definite patterns suggesting organized civilization. Riven nodded grimly. So much for being alone in the universe. We need more information before we... Contact, shouted Dinar. 3 vessels approaching rapidly from the large structure at coordinates 227 by 45. They're on an intercept course. On the main screen, 3 sleek ships appeared, growing larger as they approached. They moved with precision that spoke of advanced technology and training. Can we jump back home? Riven asked his engineer. Chief Engineer Alan Merez shook his head. No, sir. The drive needs 12 hours to recharge after our last jump. Riven took a deep breath. First contact scenario. They'd trained for this theoretically, but no one had expected it to happen so soon or so far from home. Open a channel. Universal greeting package. Let's try to be diplomatic. Patrol Commander Drez of the Dominion Security Forces was having a routine day until the unknown ship appeared on his scanners. His orders were simple: intercept, identify, and if necessary, board any unauthorized vessels. Vessel is small, Captain. Primitive design, his sensor officer reported. No indication of standard drive systems or Dominion registry beacons. Drez frowned. Pirates using outdated tech to avoid detection or perhaps a new species. The second possibility made him sit straighter. The Dominion had not encountered a genuinely new spacefaring race in over a century. They're transmitting something sur-body and visual data, but not on any standard frequencies. "Put it through," Dres ordered. The message was incomprehensible but clearly artificial. This was no pirate trick. "Order them to power down and prepare for boarding," Dres commanded. Standard protocols for first contact scenarios. On the Valiant Trent's console lit up. "Captain, they're responding. I can't understand the language, but the neural mainframe is working on it. They're transmitting some kind of mathematical sequence, followed by, I think it's instructions." Riven leaned forward. "What kind of instructions, based on the imagery they want us to shut down our engines and let them board us?" Trent replied, his voice tense. Riven exchanged glances with his first officer, Commander Talia Vey. They both knew what was at stake. Humanity's first encounter with alien life could not begin with surrender. "Send this message. We are the starship Valiant from Terra Prime. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations. We respectfully decline boarding at this time, but are willing to meet representatives at a neutral location." Trent transmitted the message while the bridge crew held their breath. The response was immediate and clear, even without translation. The three alien ships spread out in a classic flanking formation and accelerated toward them. "Evasive action," Riven ordered. "Merez, give me everything you can from the maneuvering thrusters." The Valiant banked hard, accelerating away from the approaching vessels. What the human ship lacked in raw power, it made up for in agility. The design had been optimized for rapid course changes that defied conventional space tactics. Dres stared in disbelief as the primitive-looking vessel performed a maneuver that should have been impossible for its apparent technology level. His ships, the pride of the Dominion patrol fleet, suddenly found themselves chasing a designate that refused to behave as expected. "Sir, they're outmaneuvering us," his tactical officer exclaimed. "Impossible," Dres snapped. "Lock tractors and bring them in." The patrol ships fired their graviton tethers, invisible forces, reaching out to seize the human vessel. But the Valiant wasn't where it should have been. Somehow the human captain had anticipated the engage and initiated a roll that carried them just beyond the tractor beam's effective range. "They can't have known about tractor technology," Dres muttered. "This is concerning. They tried to grab us with some kind of energy beam," Dinar reported. "Based on the field dynamics, it's designed to hold ships in place." Riven allowed himself a small smile. "Good thing we practiced those evasion drills." Vey prepared the emergency jump protocol. Vey looked alarmed. "Sir, emergency jumping without proper calculations, cold. Could be safer than waiting to see what these folks have planned for us." Riven finished. "Plot a short jump, just enough to break contact." As the alien vessels regrouped for another pass, the Valiant suddenly flared with energy. Before Dres could issue new orders, the human ship vanished in a flash of light, leaving nothing but empty space where it had been. In his ornate office on the Dominion capital world, Admiral Varnak received the patrol report with growing irritation that turned to concern. "You're telling me that an unknown vessel, with apparently primitive design, outmaneuvered our patrol ships and then disappeared?" He asked the quantum light field image of a very uncomfortable Commander Dres. "Yes, Admiral, they used some kind of jump technology we couldn't track." Varnak leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. New species were supposed to be simple to integrate into the Dominion. They were supposed to be awed by Dominion might, grateful for Dominion protection, and quick to submit to Dominion rule. They were not supposed to embarrass Dominion patrol ships. "Find that vessel," Varnak ordered, his voice cold. "I want to know everything about these humans and prepare a formal first contact team." It seems we have a situation that requires my personal attention." As Drez's image faded, Varnak turned to look out at the gleaming spires of the Dominion capital. For the first time in many cycles, he felt something unexpected uncertainty. Somewhere out there, a ship that had no right to challenge Dominion authority had done exactly that, and Varnak couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. 2 standard cycles had passed since the unexpected encounter with the unknown vessel. Commander Saren Voss stood at attention aboard the Dominion flagship Dominion. His spine, rigid as Admiral Varnak, paced before him. "Commander, this situation has drawn the attention of the Dominion Council itself." Varnak said, his blue skin darkening with frustration. "This human vessel made our patrol ships look like children's toys. The Dominion cannot allow such an embarrassment to stand." Voss nodded, his expression serious. "I understand, Admiral. My battlecruiser is ready for immediate deployment." "Good. You will take the Dominion and 2 support vessels to find this ship. Capture it if possible, destroy it if necessary, but bring me answers." Varnak handed him a data crystal. "These are the coordinates of their last known position. Intelligence suggests they may be operating near the outer rim." Voss accepted the crystal with a formal bow. "The Dominion will prevail, Admiral." As he left the Admiral's presence, Voss allowed himself a small smile. This mission would surely lead to promotion. After all, how difficult could it be to catch one primitive vessel? The Valiant drifted silently in the shadow of a gas giant, its systems running on minimal power. On the bridge, Captain Riven studied the star maps they had managed to download from unsecured Dominion networks. "So we've jumped into the middle of some massive galactic Dominion," he summarized, looking at his assembled officers, "and Dominion that, as far as we can tell, doesn't know Terra Prime exists, or didn't until we showed up." First Officer Vey pointed to a section of the map. "Based on the communication traffic we intercepted, this entire region is under Dominion control. Hundreds, maybe thousands of inhabited star systems, and not all of them are happy about it," added Communications Officer Trent. "I've been monitoring their channels. There's a planet called Lauraxia in the next system that's in active rebellion against Dominion rule." Riven considered this information carefully. Their emergency jump had carried them even farther from Terra Prime, and the drive needed major repairs before they could attempt a return journey. "Our priority has to be protecting Terra Prime," he said finally. "This Dominion is clearly expansionist, and they now know humans exist. We need to understand what we're dealing with, and if possible, find allies." Captain Dinar spoke up. "Sensors are detecting a large energy signature approaching this system. Based on what we've learned about Dominion drive signatures, it's at least one major Explorer-class vessel." Riven straightened. "They found us faster than I expected. Options. We could hide deeper in the system," suggested Vey. "Or we could check out this rebellious planet," countered Engineer Merez. "The Imperials would be less likely to look for us there, and we might find some friends." After a moment's thought, Riven nodded. "Set course for Lauraxia. Let's see if there's more to this Dominion than bullying patrol ships." The planet Lauraxia hung like a blue-green jewel in space, its surface partially obscured by smoke rising from multiple locations. As the Valiant approached cautiously, the crew could see the unmistakable signs of conflict. 3 Dominion vessels in orbit, reported Dinar. "They're bombarding the surface with some kind of energy weapons." Riven watched the scene with growing concern. The Dominion ships were systematically destroying what appeared to be cities with no regard for civilian casualties. "This isn't a strategic operation," Vey said quietly. "It's punishment." Riven's jaw tightened. "Get me more information about what's happening down there." Trent worked his console rapidly. From what I can piece together, the Loraxians refused to increase their resource quotas to the Dominion. When they protested, the Dominion labeled it rebellion and dispatched these ships to restore order. For long moments, Riven stared at the screen. His orders were clear. Avoid confrontation, gather information, and return to Earth. Interfering in an alien conflict was expressly forbidden. But as he watched another city erupt in flames, he found himself making the different calculation. If this is how the Dominion treats its own people, he said, what would they do to Earth? Battle stations were going to show these Imperials that humans don't stand by while innocents are slaughtered. Commander Sarin Voss was supervising the punishment of Loraxia when his tactical officer called for attention. Commander, unknown vessel approaching at high speed. Configuration matches the human ship from the reports. Voss smiled coldly. Fortune favors the Dominion deploy interceptors and prepare boarding parties. I want that ship intact. He watched as his orders were carried out, fighter craft launching from the 3 Dominion vessels. The human ship was outnumbered and outgunned. This would be over quickly. Captain, they've launched fighters, Dinar reported. 30 small craft, heavily armed, on intercept course. Riven nodded calmly. Activate defense protocols, Alpha through Delta. Designate the lead Dominion vessel's defense arrays only. We want to disable, not destroy. The crew exchanged glances. The defense protocols had never been tested in actual combat. As the Dominion fighters closed in, the Valiant suddenly blossomed with energy. Multiple ports opened along its hull, revealing systems that had remained hidden until now. The first wave of fighters fired their weapons, expecting to cripple the small human vessel. Instead, their energy blasts dissipated harmlessly against an invisible barrier surrounding the Valiant. Shields holding at 92%, reported Merez. Countermeasures ready. Riven gave the order. Fire. What happened next would be debated in Dominion tactical academies for years to come. The seemingly outmatched human vessel unleashed a precision barrage that systematically disabled the fighters' propulsion systems without destroying a single craft. On the bridge of the Dominion, Voss watched in disbelief as his fighters drifted helplessly, disabled but intact. Impossible, he whispered. Designate that ship with main batteries. Before his gunners could comply, the Valiant accelerated with shocking speed, evading the heavy weapons fire. It approached the first Dominion vessel and fired again. Surgical strikes disabled the Explorer-class vessel's main cannons, leaving it unable to continue bombarding the planet. Sir, our weapons are offline. Came the panic report from the first ship. They're designating our bombardment systems, only noted Voss's tactical officer with professional admiration. Remarkable precision. Before Voss could issue new orders, the human ship had repeated the process with the second Dominion vessel. Now 2 of his 3 ships hung in space, unable to continue their mission but otherwise functional. All vessels concentrate fire, Voss ordered, but the human ship moved with unnatural agility, seeming to anticipate each engage before it came. Final designate locked, Dinar announced on the Valiant. Riven nodded. Fire. The Dominion shuddered as its main weapons were systematically disabled by the human vessel's precision strikes. All Dominion bombardment capabilities disabled, confirmed Vey. Riven opened a channel to the surface. People of Loraxia. This is Commander Kale Riven of the Terra Prime vessel ESS Valiant. The Dominion ships can no longer engage your planet. I suggest you take this opportunity to negotiate better terms. Without waiting for a response, he turned to his navigator. Dinar, get us out of here. Random jump, maximum speed. As Dominion reinforcements began appearing at the edge of the system, the Valiant vanished in a flash of energy, leaving behind 3 humiliated Dominion Explorer-class vessels and a planet full of astonished Loraxians. In his private chambers, Admiral Varnak reviewed Commander Saren Voss's report with mounting horror. The human vessel had not only engaged superior Dominion forces, but had done so with technology that should have been centuries beyond their apparent development level. "Play the combat footage again," he ordered his aide. The quantum light field display showed the Valiant moving with impossible precision, its weapons striking exactly and only what they aimed at. Most disturbing of all was the ship's apparent Aegis Veil technology, which had no equivalent in Dominion defense systems. "There's no way that's a human Explorer-class vessel," Varnak muttered. "It can't be." But the evidence was irrefutable. Somewhere beyond Dominion space was a civilization with technology that could challenge the Dominion's strategic superiority. Technology housed in a ship smaller than a standard Dominion cruiser. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Varnak felt something he had never expected to experience: fear. 6 months had passed since the Valiant returned to Terra Prime with its incredible news. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and their first neighbors were a vast, aggressive Dominion that spanned thousands of worlds. The revelation had united Terra Prime's nations in an unprecedented way. As governments and scientists worked together to prepare for possible contact or conflict, today marked the next chapter in this new era. The Envoy-class vessel, Solstice, Terra Prime's first purpose-built diplomatic vessel, glided silently through space toward the coordinates provided by Dominion representatives. Twice the size of the Valiant, the Envoy-class vessel Solstice combined elegant design with hidden strength. It all gleamed in the light of distant stars as it approached the massive space station that served as the Dominion's diplomatic outpost. Envoy Loran Stride stood on the bridge, his formal attire a stark contrast to the practical uniforms of the crew. Captain Riven, now serving as strategic advisor to the diplomatic mission, stood at his side. "Impressive," Strade commented, looking at the Dominion station. The structure stretched for kilometers with sweeping arches and gleaming towers that spoke of wealth and power. "They certainly want us to be impressed by their grandeur." Riven nodded. "It's psychological. Make the other side feel small before negotiations even begin. Then it's fortunate that humans have never been easily intimidated by size." Strade replied with a smile. "Open a channel, Captain." The communications officer complied, and Strade spoke clearly. "Dominion Diplomatic Station. This is Envoy Loran Strade of Terra Prime aboard the starship Envoy-class vessel Solstice. We are here at the invitation of the Dominion Council for diplomatic discussions." The response was immediate. "Terra Prime, vessel Envoy-class vessel Solstice. You are cleared to dock at Bay 12. The Emperor's representatives await your arrival." Strade raised an eyebrow. "The Emperor himself? I wasn't told he would be present. A recent development, it seems," Riven said cautiously. "The incidents with the Valiant must have attracted high-level attention. All the more reason to tread carefully," Strade replied. "Let's not keep them waiting." The Dominion diplomatic chamber was designed to emphasize the Dominion's power and history. Ancient battle flags hung from high ceilings, while stone-faced guards in ornate armor stood at attention along the walls. At the far end, seated on an elevated platform, was Emperor Revex AX, ruler of the Zarkai Dominion. Unlike many of his subjects, the Emperor appeared almost human, distinguished only by his metallic gold skin and eyes with vertical pupils like a cat's. He studied the Earth delegation with open curiosity. So these are the humans who have caused such a stir in my realm. He said, his voice surprisingly gentle. You are smaller than I expected. Envoy Laurent Stride bowed respectfully but not subserviently. Your Dominion Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth, and thanks for this opportunity to establish diplomatic relations. The Emperor waved a hand dismissively. Yes. Relations. Tell me, Ambassador, how does a species with no prior contact with the Dominion develop such interesting technology? Our analysts are quite puzzled by your achievements. Strade smiled politely. Evolution takes many paths. Your Majesty, humans have always been resourceful and innovative. We developed along lines that suited our particular circumstances. Indeed, the Emperor leaned forward, and these circumstances produced a vessel capable of disabling 3 Dominion Explorer-class vessels without destruction. Most fascinating. Riven tense slightly at the Emperor's tone. There was something predatory in his seemingly casual interest. A regrettable incident, Strade said smoothly. Captain Riven acted to protect innocent lives, but took care to avoid unnecessary loss of life or ships. Yes, we noted that restraint, the Emperor replied. It raises interesting questions about your species' capabilities and intentions. The diplomatic dance continued for hours. Dominion representatives questioned the humans extensively about Earth's government strategic population and resources. Strade answered carefully, revealing enough to establish goodwill, but keeping many details vague. While the diplomatic team engaged with Dominion representatives, a different drama was unfolding aboard the Envoy-class vessel Solstice. In the ship's secure communications center, Lieutenant Jax Wynn noticed something unusual. Captain, I'm detecting unauthorized access attempts in our neural mainframe network. The ship's captain, Laura Solon, immediately alerted the security team. Source the station, Wynn confirmed. They're trying to be subtle, but they're definitely probing our systems. Solon's expression hardened. Activate counter-intrusion protocols. Let's see what they're after without alerting them that we're aware. The security officer worked quickly. They're designating our technical specifications, defense arrays, and quantum phase core data. Dominion spies, Solon murmured. Well, let's give them something to think about. She authorized a specific protocol designed for exactly this scenario. Rather than simply blocking the intrusion, the Envoy-class vessel Solstice's defensive systems would present a carefully crafted false data set, while simultaneously gathering information about the attackers. Back in the diplomatic chamber, the negotiations were proceeding when a commotion erupted at the entrance. An Dominion officer hurried in his face, showing alarm despite his training. Your Majesty, he began, then hesitated, glancing at the human delegation. Speak, the Emperor commanded. Sire, the station's central neural mainframe system has initiated a total lockdown. All communication with other Dominion facilities is blocked, and security doors throughout the station have sealed. The Emperor's eyes narrowed as he turned to Strade. What is the meaning of this? Strade looked too genuinely confused. I have no idea what's happening, Your Majesty. Before anyone could respond, Captain Riven's communication device chimed. He checked it, then cleared his throat. It appears that someone from the station attempted to hack into the Envoy-class vessel Solstice's systems. Our defensive protocols activated automatically. Defensive protocols. The Emperor repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. Riven maintained a neutral expression. Standard security measures. Your Majesty, any unauthorized intrusion attempt triggers an automated response. In this case, it seems our systems interpreted the engage as coming from the station's main neural mainframe and isolated it to prevent further breaches. Release my station immediately, the Emperor demanded. Strayed intervened smoothly. "Of course, Your Majesty. A simple misunderstanding. Captain, please have your crew deactivate the defensive response." Riven nodded and sent the command. Moments later, the Dominion officer confirmed that systems were returning to normal. The Emperor's face was unreadable, but the tension in the room was palpable. What should have been a simple diplomatic meeting had revealed an uncomfortable truth. The humans possessed technology that could disable Dominion systems without firing a shot. Later, as the Terra Prime delegation returned to the Envoy-class vessel, Solstice strayed, and Riven spoke privately. "That could have gone better," Straudy said with a sigh. Riven shook his head. "Actually, it went exactly as expected. They're testing us, trying to gauge our capabilities and weaknesses, and we just showed them that we can shut down their systems remotely," Strayed pointed out. "That's hardly going to make them feel secure about our peaceful intentions." Perhaps Riven conceded, but it also showed them that direct confrontation might be costlier than they anticipated. Their conversation was interrupted by Captain Reed. "Ambassador Captain, we've received an urgent communication from Terra Prime. Multiple human ships have been deployed to various border regions as a precautionary measure, and there are reports of unusual Dominion fleet movements near several key jump points." Strayed and Riven exchanged glances. The diplomatic mission was supposed to prevent escalation, not provoke it. "It seems the real negotiations have just begun," Strayed said grimly. Outside the viewport, the massive Dominion station slowly receded as the Envoy-class vessel Solstice prepared to depart. But both men knew this was just the beginning of humanity's complicated relationship with the Zarkai Dominion, a relationship now balanced precariously between diplomacy and the growing threat of conflict. The Dominion Council chamber was silent as Admiral Varnak finished his presentation. 12 council members representing the most powerful species within the Dominion sat around the massive table carved from the wood of an extinct tree. Emperor Revex X watched from his elevated seat, his golden fingers tapping slowly on the armrest of his throne. "So," the Emperor said, "finally you recommend a preemptive intervention against this Terra Prime." Varnak stood straight, his blue skin darkening with conviction. "Yes, Your Majesty, the human threat must be eliminated before they grow stronger. Their technology is advancing rapidly, and their ships have already appeared at multiple points along our borders. Ships that have taken no hostile action, noted Counselor Mira, and elderly female, with features like a terrestrial fox. They observe, they map, and they withdraw when approached. Gathering intelligence for future engages," Varnak insisted. "The Envoy-class vessel Solstice incident proved they can disable our systems with ease. Next time they might not be so merciful." The Emperor turned to his intelligence director. "What do we know about their homeworld?" The director, a small gray-skinned being, activated a quantum light field display. "Terra Prime is the third planet in a system with one yellow star. Population approximately 8 billion. Industrialized, but until recently confined to their own planet. Their sudden technological leap is unexplained." "Not unexplained," Varnak interrupted. "Hidden. They concealed their true capabilities until now." The Emperor considered this information carefully. "Very well. Authorization granted for Operation Containment. Assemble the fleet, Admiral. Show these humans the true might of the Dominion." Varnak bowed deeply, satisfaction evident in his posture. "The fleet will depart within 3 cycles, Your Majesty. We will secure the Dominion's future." As the council members filed out, Counselor Mira approached the Emperor privately. I fear we may be making a grave mistake, Your Majesty. If the humans truly wanted war, why demonstrate their capabilities without causing destruction? Why engage in diplomacy at all? The Emperor's vertical pupils narrowed. A valid concern, Counselor. But I cannot risk the safety of the Dominion on philosophical questions. If the humans are truly peaceful, they will surrender when faced with overwhelming force, if not. He let the thought hang unfinished. Mira bowed and withdrew her concerns, unresolved. Commander Cale Riven stood on the bridge of the ESS Sovereign Terra Prime's newest and most advanced Explorer-class vessel. At 500 meters long, it was considerably larger than the Valiant and incorporated all the lessons learned from their encounters with Dominion technology. Status report, he requested. Commander Vey, who had followed him from the Valiant to this new assignment, checked her console. All systems, nominal, Captain. The other ships are in position and awaiting orders. Riven nodded, studying the tactical display. Terra Prime's defense force consisted of just 7 ships, all that could be constructed in the limited time available. They faced a Dominion fleet of over 60 vessels, according to intelligence reports. The odds were not favorable. Any word from Envoy Loran Strayed? He asked. The diplomatic channel remains open, but the Dominion has not responded to our latest communication. Vey replied, it appears they've made their decision. Riven's expression remained calm, but his eyes revealed his concern. Humanity had hoped for peaceful relations with the Zarkai Dominion. Instead, they faced an existential threat from a power that spanned thousands of worlds. Signal all ships, he ordered. Execute Operation Shadow. Let's hope Director Bell's strategy works. The 7 Terra Prime vessels moved into formation, then simultaneously activated their modified jump drives. In flashes of controlled energy, they vanished from their positions near Terra Prime. Admiral Varnak stood proudly on the command deck of the Inevitable Victory, the flagship of the Dominion Containment Fleet. 65 Explorer-class vessels representing the largest strategic force assembled in a century moved in perfect formation toward the human solar system. Time to arrival, Varnak asked. 6 chron cycles to jump point, Admiral. His navigator responded. All ships report ready for combat operations. Varnak allowed himself a small smile. This would be his greatest achievement, the swift neutralization of a potential threat to Dominion stability. The humans had been clever, but cleverness alone could not stand against the overwhelming might of the Dominion. Send word to the Emperor. Operation Containment is proceeding as planned. The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Terra Prime's solar system, weapons charged and Aegis veils at maximum, but the expected resistance did not materialize. No human ships challenged their arrival. Scans detect no defensive vessels or weapons platforms, reported the sensor officer. The approach to the inner system is clear. Varnak frowned. This was too easy. Maintain alert status. Deploy scout ships to verify these readings. The scouts reported the same findings. The solar system appeared undefended except for some primitive satellites and space stations near the 3rd planet. Could our intelligence be wrong? Varnak wondered aloud. Perhaps they abandoned their homeworld after detecting our approach. Unlikely, Admiral, his tactical officer replied. We detect normal communication patterns and energy signatures from the planet. They are still there. Varnak considered the situation, then made his decision. Proceed to Terra Prime at combat speed. All ships maintain formation and prepare for possible ambush. The Dominion fleet accelerated toward the inner system, weapons ready to disable any resistance. As they passed the orbit of the gas giant, Jupiter Varnak felt increasingly uneasy about the lack of opposition. The humans had proven resourceful. Their absence now was troubling. Admiral, the urgent voice of his sensor officer, broke the tense silence. Energy signatures activating throughout the system, hundreds of them. Varnak watched an alarm as the tactical display suddenly blossomed with new contacts. Small objects previously dormant and virtually undetectable were powering up in a carefully orchestrated sequence. "What are they?" he demanded. Before his officer could answer, the effects became clear. Space itself seemed to warp around the Dominion ships as gravitational distortions rippled across their path. Ship after ship reported dry failures as the carefully calibrated hyperspace engines struggled against the unexpected interference. "We're being immobilized." The tactical officer reported, his voice tight with disbelief. "These devices are generating localized gravity wells that disrupt our drive systems and weapons designating." Within minutes, the mighty Dominion fleet hung motionless in space, unable to advance or retreat. Their weapons rendered useless by the gravitational distortion. Varnak stared at the display in disbelief. How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated nothing about such technology. As if in answer to his question, a single human ship appeared directly ahead of the fleet. It was smaller than his flagship, but sleek and clearly powerful. The vessel's design was unlike anything they had encountered before. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Audio and visual. Put it through." Varnak ordered, his voice cold with anger. The main screen activated to show Captain Riven standing calmly on the bridge of the ESS Sovereign. Admiral Varnak Riven began, "This is Commander Kyle Riven of Terra Prime. I see you've encountered our ether field lattice. I assure you no permanent damage has been done to your vessels. The effect is temporary and completely reversible. This is an act of war," Varnak snarled. "The Dominion will not tolerate such aggression." Riven's expression remained neutral. "On the contrary, Admiral, we have not fired a single shot. Your fleet entered our sovereign space with clear hostile intent. We have simply discouraged that approach." He paused, then continued. "Terra Prime desires peaceful relations with the Dominion, but we will not be conquered or intimidated. I am authorized to offer you a choice: withdraw your fleet, and we will deactivate the gravity net, or remain, and we will be forced to demonstrate additional defensive capabilities." Varnak's four-fingered hands clenched into fists. "You cannot hope to stand against the full might of the Dominion. Even if you disable this fleet, others will come." Perhaps Riven acknowledged, "But consider the cost, Admiral, and consider what the other species within your Dominion might think when they learn that a handful of human ships and a network of automated platforms disable your finest fleet without bloodshed." For the first time in his long career, Admiral Varnak found himself without a clear strategic option. The humans had outmaneuvered him completely. "I will convey your message to the Emperor," he said finally. Riven nodded. "Will await his response. Resolute out." As the transmission ended, Varnak gazed out at the stars surrounding his immobilized fleet. The Dominion had ruled unchallenged for millennia. Now a species from a single insignificant world had changed everything. The Dominion crisis had truly begun. The Emperor's personal vessel, the Dominion Glory, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Terra Prime's solar system. Unlike the massive Explorer-class vessels of the containment fleet, the Dominion Glory was designed for speed and elegance, its sleek lines reminiscent of ancient sea creatures from the Dominion homeworld. On the command deck, Emperor Zalor Thane watched as his ship approached the immobilized fleet. It had been one decacycle since Admiral Varnak's failed engage, and the situation had only grown more complex. News of the Dominion's defeat had spread throughout the galaxy, despite efforts to contain it. Already 3 previously loyal systems had declared their independence. "Your Majesty," his aide said quietly, "the human ambassador is hailing us." The Emperor straightened his ceremonial robes. This unprecedented personal visit, the first time in 7 centuries that an emperor had left the Dominion core worlds, was a gamble, but the alternative was unthinkable. "Put him through," he commanded. Envoy Loran Strade appeared on the screen, his expression respectful but not subservient. "Emperor Revex, on behalf of Terra Prime and all humanity, I welcome you to our solar system. We are honored by your personal attention to this matter." The Emperor nodded slightly. "The situation demands my presence. Ambassador, I trust arrangements have been made for our meeting." "Yes, Your Majesty. We have prepared neutral space aboard the station you can see ahead. Both your security team and ours have inspected it thoroughly." "Very well. I shall arrive shortly." The Emperor ended the transmission and turned to his advisors. "Remember, we are here to salvage Dominion dignity and reach a workable agreement. The reports from our intelligence agents are clear. We cannot defeat these humans through conventional means." His advisors nodded solemnly. The revelation of human technological capabilities had shaken the Dominion hierarchy to its core. The neutral station hung in spe halfway between the immobilized Dominion fleet and Terra Prime. Originally a research platform, it had been quickly modified to serve as a diplomatic venue. The central chamber was circular with viewports looking out into the blackness of space. Terra Prime was visible as a blue marble on one side, while the Dominion fleet could be seen on the other, a constant reminder of the current situation. Captain Riven stood at attention as Emperor Rebex entered the chamber, followed by his delegation. The Emperor moved with natural grace, his golden skin gleaming under the station's lights. Envoy Loran Strade stepped forward to make formal introductions. What followed was the most extraordinary diplomatic conference in Terra Prime's history. For 6 rotation spans, human and Dominion representatives discussed technology territory, political structures, and the fundamental nature of galactic governance. On the final day, the Emperor requested a private meeting with just Riven and Strade. "Your technology," the Emperor began once they were alone. "It follows a different path than ours. Explain this to me." Riven and Strade exchanged glances before Strade answered. "Your Dominion Majesty, human development has always emphasized efficiency and adaptability over raw power and scale. Our ships are smaller but more maneuverable. Our weapons are precise rather than devastating. We value finesse over force, a philosophical difference." Then the Emperor mused. "In part, Riven agreed, but also practical. Terra Prime has limited resources compared to your vast Dominion. We had to do more with less." The Emperor's vertical pupils dilated slightly. A sign of interest, Strade had learned. "And this gravitational technology that has disabled my fleet an extension of our jump drive research," Riven explained. "We discovered that the same principles that allow faster-than-light travel can be used to create localized gravitational distortions." "Impressive," the Emperor acknowledged. "And more importantly, unexpected. The Dominion has grown complacent in its power. We haven't faced a true technological challenge in millennia." He paused, studying the humans carefully. "What do you want, Captain Riven Envoy Loran Strade? What does Terra Prime truly seek in this galaxy?" Strade leaned forward. "Peace, Your Majesty. Security for our world and its people. The freedom to explore and trade. We have no desire for conquest or domination. And yet you have effectively conquered my finest fleet without firing a shot," the Emperor pointed out. "Defense is not conquest," Riven replied. We acted to protect our world from what we perceived as an existential threat. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then unexpectedly, he smiled. You know, Captain, in all my centuries of rule, no one has ever outmaneuvered me so completely. It is refreshing. On the final day of negotiations, representatives from a dozen worlds joined the conference. Some were Dominion subjects who had long chafed under centralized rule. Others were independent systems that had maintained uneasy relations with the Dominion. All had been monitoring the unprecedented standoff between humans and Imperials. Envoy Loran Strade presented Terra Prime's proposal to the assembled delegates. A new framework for galactic relations. Not a dominion ruled by force, but a community of worlds bound by mutual interest and respect. Each world would maintain its sovereignty while adhering to basic principles of non-aggression and fair trade. The Dominion has brought stability to the galaxy, Strade acknowledged. But at the cost of freedom and innovation, we believe there is another way, a balance between unity and independence. The Dominion representatives listened with expressions ranging from outrage to thoughtful consideration. Several Dominion councillors protested vehemently, arguing that any change to the established order would bring chaos. But to everyone's surprise, Emperor Ravex raised his hand for silence. For 9 millennia, he set his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. The Dominion has ruled through strength and tradition. We have maintained peace, yes, but also stagnation. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of delegates from worlds that had been under Dominion control for countless generations. The humans have shown us another possibility, not through conquest, but through ingenuity. They disabled our fleet without destruction. They offered terms when they could have demanded surrender. The Emperor paused, then continued with what seemed like genuine wonder. Their ships, their remarkable ships that confused my best commanders, represent not just different technology, but a different way of thinking. He turned to face Strade and Riven directly. The Dominion will consider your proposal, Ambassador, not because we must, but because perhaps it is time for change. One orbital turn later, Captain Riven and Envoy Loran Strade stood in the observation lounge of Terra Prime's orbital headquarters. Below them, the blue-green planet continued its eternal dance around the sun, unaware of how close it had come to devastation. They watched as the last Dominion vessels, now freed from the gravitational trap, prepared to depart the solar system. The Treaty of Sol, as it was being called, had been signed by the Emperor and representatives of 37 worlds. It established a transition from Dominion rule to a galactic council where all member worlds would have a voice. Do you think it will work? Riven asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Strade smiled slightly. The treaty. It's a beginning. Change won't happen overnight. But it started, and will be ready if it doesn't. Riven added his gaze, shifting to where Terra Prime's new defense fleet was gathered. The ESS Sovereign was now just one of 20 ships with more under construction. The Emperor was right about one thing Strade said. Our ships did represent a different way of thinking. Humanity didn't try to build bigger or more powerful vessels than the Dominion. We built smarter ones. Riven nodded. And now the whole galaxy is asking the same question. There's no way that's a human Explorer-class vessel, right? They laughed together as they watched the Dominion ships disappear into hyperspace. Terra Prime was no longer alone in the universe, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Zarkai Dominion had been shaken, not by force of arms, but by the one thing it had never expected, a new idea.